So this is definitely going to be an interesting race. Yeah, I'm just excited to see it get started, which looks like everybody has their file name, so we just have to... All right, so we just have to wait for them to go, and Paul is going, and now everybody else is... Oh, everybody else is in sync. Paul, though, first one to start the prologue. So in the prologue, you don't have your dash. So if you know anything about this game, you've probably seen a lot of heavy dashing action, and we don't get that until the end of the... we don't get that until the very end of the prologue here. So jumping is what we're going to be doing instead. Because it moves you a little bit faster, and I believe saves about a second throughout the course of the entire prologue. But the prologue's already over. So now the racers are going to be moving on to Chapter 1, Forsaken City, where we now have complete access to the dash. And as you can see, with complete access to the dash, we can kind of start going really fast. You have hyper dashes, you have wall bounces, you have wave dashes and extended dashes, you have basically everything you could ever want to move as fast as possible. And it's really well showcased here in Forsaken City, where not only are the screens open, but there are a lot of uses of basically every technique. So you get to make sure... So it's a good way to start the run, to make sure you're warmed up, make sure everything is going as speedily as you want it to be. Seeing a few deaths between all four screens. This is a level where it's hard to track where each person is, although TGH the first to the final checkpoint, as I'm guessing a lot of people expected. And making his way to the end here. Looks like everybody's relatively close, which I expected it to be. We have 4 players who are pretty good at the game, still at the very beginning of it, so it's probably going to take a little bit for for everybody to be at different parts. With TGH finishing right before Hihya and Loudur, and Paul a small bit behind, but not much. TGH entering Old Site, where not much is happening right now because the mechanic of the dream blocks is not unlocked yet. We have to go over to this direction where TGH is heading right now and do a little glitch off this mirror, which basically preserves our height to get us in that dream block sooner. And now the dream blocks are activated, you can dash through them, you can get your dash back, and it's only going to get crazier for the rest of the chapter now as TG makes his way back up. Everybody else has their dream blocks now, so not far behind before entering the battle and fight that TGH is now entering. Battling, you want to be careful. 3 seconds behind you at all times, copying your exact input, so you want to make sure you don't get hit, which it looks like TGH is doing just fine. Everybody else just now entering the fight, doing pretty well. Hihya kind of scary looking there, but getting to the screen's fine. Loudur struggling a little bit as TGH unlocks that block by hitting all the keys on the screen. Hihya dying on that screen. Loudur making it to the same screen that Randompaul and Hihya are on, as TGH is entering this kind of last screen. It's not technically the last screen of this section, however, it's the last screen where Battling completely chases you, because on the next screen there's going to be a point where if you actually stay long enough, you'll just see Battling stand there and not continue chasing you. And that just has to go to the right as quickly as possible, as we see everybody else working on that last screen that I mentioned. TGH is going to enter Awake, where there are no dream blocks. It's just straight up a dash to the right. And since your speed's not capped, you're going to try and do bunny hops and other tricks to make sure that you maintain your momentum and add to it as much as possible. And so if your movement's good enough, you'll be going crazy fast during Awake. As TGH finishes the whole chapter here. 2 other racers, all 3 racers actually working on on a wake right now, with Hihya being the second to finish, and Loudur and Paul being relatively close to each other. Loudur still about a screen and a half ahead of Paul, as TGH, Hihya, and soon to be Loudur and Paul are entering Celestial Resort, where the Dust Bunnies might prove quite a problem. Cycles, and cycles. There's an entry room cycle and a death cycle. And between all four of these players, I'm guessing we're going to see a few deaths in quite a few screens. So it'll be interesting to see how each player deals with different cycles. Looks like Teej has been playing clean, getting through the cycles that he's used to, because not dying means the cycles are always not in the death cycles. And so it looks like everyone's fine now. TGH introduced us by being the first one there to key doors, but now everybody's getting through that first key door now. Loudur now grabbing the key, and looks like Random Paul died, and so left the room to reset the room to the entry cycle instead of the death cycle, which is definitely a balanced strategy in most cases, if you're not used to a death cycle, or in the case of the screen that he was on, where the death cycle is just atrocious and you never want to be on it. Everybody else making fine progress through the resort. It looks like TGH is going to be the first one into the huge mess, where really tricky navigation. You see a little bit of boosts, not exactly going where they want to go, but still leads to a ton. Jeez. Okay, that was really nice. Talking to Hihya, and now needs to hit 3 buttons to clean up all the kind of components that are combining to make the huge mess. You see Hihya navigating to Ashiro right now. You need to talk to Ashiro after each section, and so our routing in the section is kind of dependent on which exit of a branch is quickest to get to Ashiro from. So we see Paul and Loudur pretty close entering the huge mess room, as Hihya gonna be going for the spike jump and gets it. For spike jumping, since there's another one later, I'll explain it now. When you're moving away from spikes, they don't have a hitbox. And also, if you're running towards... Oh, okay, so it's kind of hard to explain. But if there is a corner directly above you, and you're moving towards it, that you can jump off of a little tiny bit of the of that corner. And so, since the spikes don't damage you when you're moving against them, you can kind of do that wall jump against that corner. And TGH making fine progress through. About to hit the 3rd button. Hihya hitting the 2nd button, so still doing pretty good on keeping up. As Paul's hitting the 1st button, Loudur's heading into the 2nd section. Now that all 3 of the components of the huge mess are gone, the key in the middle is going to be available for TGH to grab and head on to the elevator shack. The elevator shaft, even. It's a checkpoint named after basically that one room, but there is some kind of evil stuff that happens after it, so you gotta be wary. TGH then making fine progress as Loudur hits the 2nd button, and Hihya takes the 3rd button and is about to be entering the elevator shaft with TGH. TGH getting to a kind of notorious screen of Chapter 3. You have to hyper across these platforms specifically to not hit the dust bunnies to get that key. Then once you get the key, keys carry. They stay with you when you pick them up, even if you die. So it's faster there to get back to the beginning of the screen by retrying and then getting to the door. Loudur is now going to be able to get the key in the center of the huge mess. As TGH is going to fight Ashiro. Ashiro will charge at you, will track your height before charging at you by going across the screen horizontally, as you saw there. You can jump on Ashiro to get your dash back and your grab stamina. But I don't think that's going to be too useful, because Tej is just kind of on his own, going to be moving so quickly that, yeah. I mean, everybody else is too, but everybody else is still working on their sections, with Hihya just now entering the screen before the Ashiro fight, and the other 2 working on the elevator shaft checkpoint. Very nice screen here for TGH. This screen is very scary that he's on right now, because it's the last screen of the whole level, and it's very long. So one death, like as you saw TGH have there, can have a huge impact. As Hihya enters the Ashira section, and TGH now leaving not only the section, but the whole chapter behind him. Loudur working through the last room before the Ashira fight, as Hihya's also sweeping through the screens of Ashira with no problem. We have Random Paul, the last person to enter the room with the hyper on the platforms, as TGH enters the Golden Ridge. So Golden Ridge has a few mechanics that you have to kind of combine to move as fast as possible. The first one being the clouds, which are basically trampolines, and you can use them to get a lot of height. Second one being the bubbles, which are basically an extra midair dash that there is a bit of delay before a bubble goes off, but if you press the dash button, it'll go off immediately, and that's faster. And also, you'll get your dash back when you get blown out of it, because it automatically pops after a dash height. Hihya is exiting Chapter 3, now going to be joining Chapter 4, where the third mechanic of the chapter is going to be the wind that pushes you either to the left or to the right. And basically, that does what you'd think it does. It makes it harder to move, or easier, depending on what direction. So we're basically moving to the right a lot, so you want the wind to be moving to the right so that you can move to the right faster. TGH doing the spike jump there. Loudur is on the last screen of the Ashira section, and Random Paul is probably about halfway through. Hihya using the wind very well. There are going to be points where the wind makes it very hard to move, so you kind of have to do as much dashing as you can, but there's a lot of not very safe places to dash in this level, so you do have to be super careful with what you're doing in Golden Ridge, which we're going to see Loudur about to get into. And it looks like onerandompaul is on the last screen, so they'll also be there very soon. TGH going for an extended, doesn't get it, so does a very interesting jump there to get up to the block without using the cloud. Onerandompaul being the last to finish Chapter 3, but still doing it very quickly. It's been a very good show so far from all four of our racers. It looks like Hihya is struggling a little bit at getting some wall bounces, but gets it. All right. And Loudur dying on these spikes, you can kind of jump in that small area between the spikes, and it hurts, but you can do it. And TGH now entering the cliff face. The cliff face is the last section of the Golden Ridge, where the wind basically gets so fast that if you want to move to the right at all, you basically have to be dashing, or else you'll like inch forward, and you just don't want to do it. But obviously, if we have something to work around, we're going to route around it, and so we kind of have our dashes planned out so we know the wind won't be a problem, because hey, we know it's here, so why not just work with it? Because the wind is dependent on what screen you're on, so like every screen has the same force of wind in the same direction. And TGH is now done with Chapter 4, very nicely done, as onerandompaul heading to near the Chapter 4 spike jump. And Hihya and Loudur still pretty close. I believe Hihya is a few screens ahead of Loudur here, but yeah, it's very few screens. So TGH entering the Mirror Temple has two things. So first off, a basically entirely new thing is these dash blocks, where whenever you dash, they will move across the track they have, and in order to get them to go back to their original position, you have to not dash for a while, and they'll move back slowly. And then here are the red bubbles, which are basically the same as the green bubbles, except instead of a normal dash distance, they'll keep going infinitely until they either hit a wall or you dash out of them. And these ones you can dash out of, but if you dash out of them, you obviously won't have a normal dash to use after that. So it kind of is very interesting. This is one of the most interesting chapters, especially because as you get later in the chapter, more things are going to be happening. And a very cool speed strat from TGH, he gets it. Oh, that's a really cool strat to see. You do some boosts with some blocks, and it looks like he's not going to be going for double bubble skip, which is entirely understandable because he's already having a rockin' Chapter 5 so far, as Hihya's a few screens away from entering Chapter 5, and same with Loudur. Meanwhile, Random Paul 2 screens away from entering Cliff Face, which means he's also fairly close to finishing the chapter, but Cliff Face is a beast, so we'll see how well they are able to handle it. And now TGH is going to be playing as a Seeker. Basically, this game teaches you how Seekers work before giving them to you by having you play as one. You'll basically learn everything about Seekers. They can kill Madeline, they can break these walls, they can't go through these weird-looking barriers. You can also jump on them to get your stamina and dash back, and they will have a little explosion when they respawn, which is a little bit after you jump on them, and that can be useful just as much as a Seeker itself. But one thing that tutorial doesn't teach you is that the Seeker can actually hit keys, like the keys that you need to hit to open the door. So you're going to see this next screen after the one TGH is on right now, when Seekers appear. One thing you're going to commonly see throughout this section, which is referred to as the unraveling section, because that's the name of the in-game checkpoint for this part of the run. You're going to see Tej doing movement to try and lure the Seeker to hit a switch for him so that he doesn't have to go around and hit it himself, which is, he's doing very nicely so far. Meanwhile, Loudur and Hihya making their way to the big mirror, and TGH not making the Seeker hit a key that he wanted to hit, but backing it up, making it fine. Meanwhile, Random Paul now done with Chapter 4, moving very nicely along all 4 of these racers. And looks like Hihya's going to be the next one to enter the section with the Seekers, just has to go up here to play as one. And TGH is coming out on Search Skip. Search Skip is basically the biggest skip in the run. You do a reverse extended hyper to get your dash back and also not hit a wall so you can go across those spikes. And it basically saves a lot of time from not having to go bind 2 keys and then unlock 2 doors so that you can ride a red bubble across the spikes without them hitting a door. It's a very long section that we basically skip the meat of and just do some miscellaneous screens after the normal key puzzle is all said and done. Because this is supposed to be laid out by a maze, like a maze, this chapter. Okay, I'm talking about the biggest skip here, not the biggest meme. But if we want to talk about good memes, Theo here is great. So things just happen. New things just happen so fast in Beer Temple. I want to focus on the other racers, but I do really want to get the mechanics out of the way. Theo is kind of an escort where you have to bring Theo. There's this brown door at the end of the screen that will not open unless Theo is close enough to it. And so basically you have to bring Theo from screen to screen, and you cannot dash while holding Theo. However, you can throw Theo and then do some sort of dash or hyper dash and then pick him up. And it will carry your momentum, which lets you do some probably even crazier movement than the normal movement techniques by just throwing him and picking him up again. And then this last room has these shockwaves that you're going to want to dash against because otherwise they'll be pushing you backwards. So you see Tej kind of stalling so that the waves, he can prepare to dash against the waves. Very good, finishing the chapter by throwing Theo at the eyeball. And we see Hihya coming up here on Search Skip as TGH is entering Chapter 6. We'll see how Hihya does on Search Skip. Struggling a little bit. Gets it. There you go. I had a little bit of problems not hitting the wall, which is why you even do a reverse there, so you don't hit the wall. But very good. TGH working with feathers right now. Feathers are basically omnidirectional, meaning instead of the normal 8 directions that you usually see when players use D-pad in this game, you can move that all 360 degrees of directions. TGH doing Lake Skip after a few tries. Basically skips a crush block, which is the other main new mechanic of Chapter 6, where you dash into a block and then the block charges at you from that direction. Also referred to as a Kevin block, you can use them to basically go wherever you want in a screen, and also have some crazy momentum stuff happen in some situations, but we'll talk about that one mainly later. As it looks like Loudur got through Search Skip while I was explaining some Chapter 6 stuff, and onerandompaul is now working through the end of Unraveling. This is the last screen before the search checkpoint begins, so getting close to search skip, doing very well. Hihya now on Theo, and loudur going to be very close to doing Theo. Well, TGH now has to do the split paths in the hollows of Chapter 6. So basically there are going to be a set of screens where you can choose to either go up or down. When it comes to every category, this chapter is almost the same because there are no berries in this category, so we kind of know which route on each screen is going to be faster. You do sometimes see a few changes in who goes where, but for the most part, you usually see the same screens no matter what. And it looks like onerandompaul did pretty well on search skip, already through. There are also pinball bumpers. I should explain this as loudur is working very quickly on Theo, and Hihya's also almost about to enter 6. Pinball bumpers, basically, they're pinball bumpers because Madeline's the pinball. They'll just bump you in whatever direction you hit them from, and it can be kind of violent. However, you can, if you hold against the direction you're being bumped at the right time, you can actually get a boost in how quickly you're being bumped in a direction. And that is useful in some situations. You also do get your dash back when you hit a pinball bumper, so you do have to be careful. You can work with pinball bumpers to help you go quicker. It looks like everybody else, except for Paul, is on to Chapter 6 now. Just kidding. Loudur is not. I lied. But loudur's on the last screen of Chapter 5. Well, Hihya's in Chapter 6, and randompaul is now in the latter half of the Theo section. And TGH heading to this little swimming thing just before kind of the halfway of the chapter. Doing very well. Looks like Paul is struggling with this screen a bit to get Theo up here on the dash block. There we go, got Theo up there, but then died, unfortunately. And it looks like loudur is now done with Chapter 5, going to be heading to Reflection, as there's a battling boost from TGH where you use that moving block to get a ton of momentum to boost yourself right into the battle and boss fight here. So now the goal of this boss fight is to avoid Battlin's attacks, such as lasers or energy balls. Well, you have to try and get over to her, because you're trying to negotiate with her in the story of the game, but in this boss fight, you're just trying to get over to her and basically hug her or something, I don't know. A lot of people like to say different things, poke, punch, hug. It's whatever is your interpretation. Now it looks like everybody's on to Chapter 6, though, as onerandompaul is the last to finish up. Mirror Temple, still moving very quickly. This is a very good run from all 4 sides. It looks like Hihya is now going to be entering the split paths, as loudur is just working through the very beginning of the Reflection, and onerandompaul is doing the kind of feather to the sky. And TGH, soon to be onto the remix section of the fight, right after this hit. I always mix up these screens. I'm sorry. It looks like onerandompaul died, maybe going for lake skip or something, but it's not doing that again. It is now just going to be doing the normal way there. Hihya doing good work on the split path, loudur getting a skip there, so the crush block does not have to hit a crumbling block to do that. This is the last screen before the remix that I talked about on TGH's side, so that fight's about to change for TGH, but not before loudur gets to the split paths. So now after a few dialogue boxes where Battlin does not attack you at all, and there was a bumper boost from Hihya, by the way, now it's going to be a remix section where instead of blocks just kind of randomly falling as you hit Battlin, now they're going to be moving back and forth in cycles, which can kind of mess some stuff up, makes it a lot easier for you to get crushed. However, just like basically everything involving cycles or time in this game, we've basically realized, hey, this game has nothing random in it, so we just have to learn how they work and then route around that. So this is a very quick moving section, even through all the crazy shenanigans that are happening. And before you know it, TGH is, with this hit, TGH is now already onto the last screen. Unfortunately taking a death, though. as we see Hihya about to enter the battle and fight. Just has to get to the screen with the boost as TGH finishes it. And is now just going to be dashing upwards. Has the double dash mechanic where your hair turns pink. And so, since blue hair indicates you have no dashes left, and red hair means indicates you have one dash left, with a very nice battle and boost from Hihya into the battle and fight. Pink hair indicates that you have 2 dashes now. And so that's going to be abused a lot into the final stage that TGH is heading into now. So yeah, you immediately see that this level is kind of built around the fact that you have 2 dashes and you can get a lot of airtime. And it puts a lot of pits and a lot of spikes. A lot of fast movement as well, because basically all your movement tech revolves around dashes. But a lot of airtime actually means a lot of moments where you actually have to not move as quickly as you're moving through the air. But there is always stuff like ultra dashes before you get to these screens at the end of each section of the summit, where you have to get each orb for battle and to throw you up to the next section of the summit. And each section of the summit is a callback to a previous chapter. So after the base of the summit, which was basically in the same area as the previous chapter 6, this is now like themed after Forsaken City, which is the first chapter of the game. We see on the other sides of the screen, we see Hihya and Loudur. It looks like Loudur entered Battlein and is now working through the beginning portions of it, as Hihya is getting closer and closer to that remix portion where the things move on cycles. And onerandompaul is just now 2 screens away from entering the fight with Battlein, so I think with the pace that Hihya's working through it, still very quickly, but still not at the remix, so we might see 3 Battlein fights at the same times. But we are about to enter the remix, as TGH is about to enter the 1000 section of Summit, which is going to be themed after the... Oh, that was really funny. Was that a soft block from onerandompaul? I don't think I've seen that. I think he fell into a pit in the cutscene, so got stuck in the floor when skipping the cutscene relocated his position. Because, as mentioned earlier when we activated the Dream Block back in Chapter 2, the Dream Block, or cutscenes, when you skip them, they move you to a set position at the end of the cutscene horizontally, but they keep your vertical position, so you can kind of do some weird stuff with that. I don't think I've ever seen that before, though. That's really interesting. Hihya is on the second to last screen of the battle and fight, so we'll be basically finished with Chapter 6 real soon and headed onto Summit. Meanwhile, TGH is already onto the last screen of the 1000 section. So, yeah. Now we're going to be heading back to Chapter 3, or a Chapter 3 inspired segment at least, with Celestial Resort's 1500-meter callback, filled with dust bunnies on annoying cycles, pressure platforms in places where you don't want them, and a ton of keys guarded by dust bunnies. Fantastic. Also featuring a lot of long rooms that will absolutely mess you up if you're not careful. These rooms do not have any checkpoints, so you do have to be careful, because if you die at any point, you have to do the whole thing over, and they can generally just not be very nice. Very nice ultra dashes from TGH, making it through 1500 very smoothly so far, as Hihya is onto the end of Chapter 6, where you basically just have to climb up stuff. Not much else happening. And Loudur onto the remix, and it looks like onerandompaul is close to the remix. Well, TGH wraps up 1500, having a little bit of a problem with the feather controls, which they are very tricky, so definitely no. Oh no! Loudur accidentally hitting a trampoline and dashing right into spikes. Having to do that screen over. Fortunately, it's not a very challenging or long screen, and able to get back through it quickly. Hihya entering the summit as TGH enters the 2000 Golden Ridge segment. Carrying a strawberry, because one of the pads we go on that is faster to go on has a strawberry on it, so... And there's no harm in collecting them. I mean, unless you don't want to look cool. I guess, I don't know. Hihya, not Hihya. Although I guess I can comment about Hihya. Hihya's making good progress on the summit base very quickly. TGH just got an auto-scroller skip where you have to you have to do an extended off of a moving platform and then reach a different platform and then do a wall bounce, and it skips having to wait for a platform to reach a whole screen. Doing it again there, except doing some different wall bounce strats because it's a vertical auto-scroller and not a horizontal auto-scroller. Loudur is done with the battle and fight, just to climb up the end of Reflection and head on their way to Summit. onerandompaul working on the remix of Battlin', so very close to the end, just a few more screens, as Hihya is working on working through 500. TGH is finishing up 2,000, and everything's just moving very quickly because now almost everybody has their double dashes, and the only person that doesn't, which is onerandompaul, is only one screen away from getting the double dashes. This is the last screen of the battle and fight before everybody's done with it. TGH headed to the Mirror Temple 2500 section of the summit. So this section has a few things you have to keep in mind. First off, dash blocks are going to be used in very cheeky ways to get a lot of momentum, and there's also going to be key skip, where TGH is going to do 2 wall jumps off of very specific areas to grab a key, and then retry to get back to the bottom of the screen quicker. onerandompaul onto the ending just has to go up this and then dash up more. Hihya working through 1,000. It seems like they're finally there, as Loudur is going through 500. Here's the legendary door skip. Saves about 1 second. A very small window to get under these 2 doors. Gets a second try, though. And as onerandompaul enters the beginning of Summit, I guess I can talk for a second to answer a question in chat. How many rounds does this tournament have? So this tournament starts with 128 people. This tournament started with 128 people in 16 groups of 8. And basically what's going to be happening is, at the end of the group stages, 4 people from each group, so 64 people in total, are going to be moving on to the bracket stage, where there's going to be a round of 64, the top 64, then the top 32, then the top 16, then the top 8, and then the top 4, and then the top 2. And then the top 2 is obviously the end, because you can't race yourself. I mean, I guess that's what comparing against splits is like, but you can't physically race yourself, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, you could in Mario Kart, but this isn't Mario Kart, this is Celeste, where we have 3,000, the last section of the summit, which is kind of like its own level now. And with it being its own level, it has new things. So if you remember the win from Chapter 4 and 2,000 meters on Summit, we now have downdrafts and updrafts, which basically means that the wind will either lower or raise your gravity. So in the case of the ground draft, your gravity is higher, so you can't jump as high. Now the updraft is where your gravity is lower. You can jump higher, you can dash higher. You're much more floaty, and it can kind of be tricky, but TGH making it look fine. So, meanwhile, everybody's going through Summit on their way to 3,000, where TGH is now, with Hihya just now about to enter 2,000. Loudur in the last couple screens of 1,000, and onerandompaul just about to enter 1,000. So everybody's doing really good right now. As TGH is kind of nearing the last part. There are 30 flags, and that flag you just saw him skip right there is flag 10. So each flag acts as a checkpoint, basically. And then once you reach flag 1, the next flag will be the top of the summit. Loudur now into 1,500. We'll see how they can deal with the cycles, because they are very ruthless. onerandompaul doing nice things with the dream blocks. It looks like Hihya's not even going to bother going for auto-scroller skip, which is definitely understandable, because it is one that can lose a decent bit amount of time. And even if you get it second try, like, I think even if you get it third try, it might have been slower than doing it normally. So it's one of the ones that can be risky, but you'll see a lot of people go for it anyways, because they can get it first try, which can be done with enough consistency. But, you know, always better to be safe than sorry in most cases. TGH now heading to checkpoint 2 was what he just crossed, so he just has to do one more thing, and then Yeah, now he's on checkpoint 1. And the time it took me to recapture my train of thought, he already made it to checkpoint 1, which is a very simple checkpoint where you just have to go upright a lot and then make it to the top of the mountain where you finish in first place. So GG's to TGH with a finish of, looks like gameplay's frozen, I can't see, 31:17, which is really good. I think that's better than the current second place time. But also a very good job from everybody else who's doing very well. Hihya's on 2,500, so almost there to... almost there to, what am I trying to say? Almost there to 3,000, which is the final section. And as 2,000 and 1,500 are being worked on by Loudur and Hihya, respectively. I'm trying to get the audio to switch here to Hihya's audio. But as that's going on, onerandompaul is onto the last screen of... The last screen of... What am I trying to say? The last screen of 1,500. And Loudur working through 2,000 fine. Okay, this audio is messing me up now, as Hihya messes up as well with door skip. But again, door skip is very challenging, so it's not only understandable to not get it first try, and still getting it like Hihya did is very good. So Hihya's now going to be working on the last screen of 2,500 before heading to 3,000. I know my numbers. As the other two are both on 2,000, so they're pretty close right now, but Loudur's on the last screen. Well, onerandompaul is still kind of early on in the segment, so there's still a little bit of a difference between the two, but it's very close. And okay, I'm trying to fix the audio because it's... There we go. That... I don't think Hihya's audio... It might have been a problem with Hihya's audio. I don't know, but we have Loudur's now, so that's good. Even though Hihya's into 3,000 and Loudur is into 2,500. Onerandompaul working through 2,000 very smoothly. Hihya getting key skip. Not Hihya, sorry, my bad. Loudur getting key skip. And onerandompaul heading to the last screen of 2,000, about to enter 2,500. Accidentally missing the red bubble there, Loudur. That's actually kind of interesting. A dash a bit too high, maybe. That's not a mistake I think I've ever seen. It's kind of interesting, because usually that last screen is not one where you enter from high, but maybe, I don't know, maybe it just does some strats I don't even know about. So it looks like Loudur's also going for door skip. So that's great. I'm getting it first try, which I think is better than both Hihya and TGH did on door skip. So we finally have a first try door skip in this race very well. And onerandompaul going through 2,500. It's a very tricky section with a lot of tough dashes, especially with these dash blocks. You saw that wall bounce instead of a hyper dash, or a wave dash, my bad, is what they wanted to try to do. And Loudur heading into 3,000 as Hihya is working, about to hit checkpoint 12. So getting close to kind of the ending portion of 3,000 and the entire game as Loudur enters 3,000. Very good key skip there from onerandompaul, retrying to get back there sooner. I want to see if we can get TGH in for an interview. But I'll see if we can do that. Meanwhile, looks like Hihya struggling a little bit with checkpoint 9, which is a very difficult checkpoint. A lot of tight dashes with spikes. And you gotta make sure all your dashes are used correctly because you only have so many. And hello there.
Yo, what's up?
Congratulations on your victory in this race.
Thanks.
A lot of people are really impressed. 31-14 is, or 17, my bad. 31-17 is quite a time to get in a tournament race scenario.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's any percent's been weird for me lately, honestly.
Yeah, because I know you broke your controller or something, or it broke.
It didn't break. I just like, I don't know. It just became like I felt like the D-pad was starting to die in a way that I didn't like. So
yeah,
I decided to switch. But yeah, I don't know. Like I've been like weirdly consistent, but then faltering towards the end. And it was no exception here. Chapter 6 was about plus 30 on my PB. And Chapter 7 was more lost time as well, even though I think it was, what was my Chapter 7, like 8:45, I think? Let me check, actually.
I don't remember. Yeah.
But yeah, it was okay. It was a run that I'm definitely proud of getting in a race for sure, but you know, it could have been a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and it was definitely an interesting race to watch because even when you were ahead, everybody else is kind of close together, and even at the beginning, a lot of you were close together because at the beginning of the game, obviously, things are a lot closer because during the prologue, you can't really move as fast as you want to.
Yeah.
So everybody was super close together, and it was really interesting to watch just how much time you could get ahead, even in just Forsaken City, ahead of someone like Hihya, who just finished with 38-13, which is pretty good. A very good time for Hihya.
Yeah, the thing about Chapter 1, too, is Chapter 1's really interesting, especially for our first chapter in the game, because it really does, like, basically the game just says, okay, here's all your speed tech in Chapter 1.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
kind
so
of like
it gets going, like, right off the get-go.
Yeah. Kind of like some sort of playground where it's like, try all the toys.
Yeah.
Except you have to try them in a certain order, and if you fail them, you die. Not a very safe playground, but nitpicking my own analogies aside, still was a very fun race to watch. And
sure. Always fun to do as well.
Yeah. So this was your third group race, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you still have 4 more, I think, so I hope you enjoy racing, because you still got a bit to go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah. I managed to somehow crank out all my races in the first week, and part of me kind of misses the race setting.
That's really impressive, actually.
Yeah,
doing all your races in the first week.
Yeah, I was like, hey, I just kind of want to get stuff scheduled, because I have a lot busy. And then everybody scheduled me for a weekday of the same week, and I was like, well, okay.
I mean, that works. It's just impressive.
It did work. It did work out pretty well, and it's also stuff's working good for Loudur, who's finished now with 39-12. And hello, Hihya.
Yo,
what's up?
Congratulations on the victory.
Yeah, thanks. Congrats to Teach for winning, and Paul. Nice GG while he's still at it.
Yeah, Paul was doing very good. It was really close between... It was actually really close between you and Loudur for a while. But Paul was your opponent, and Paul also did very well keeping in track. Now he's just hitting checkpoint 3, so Paul's almost done. But yeah, it was a very fun race. A lot of good stuff. Hihya, what do you think was like, or Teach too, because I don't think I ever actually asked you, but what do you think, I mean, actually another thing about it, Teach actually kind of answered on his own because I asked stuff about runs, but Hihya, for you, what do you think your best and kind of worst parts of this run were, or any just notable parts of your run?
I know that I'm still pretty bad at Summit, but that's the case for everyone, I guess.
Summit is,
I think,
really hard.
Prologue is pretty nice, I guess.
Yeah, But Summit is hard for a lot of people, but it is finishable. Like onerandompaul just finished 40-44 is really good. So GG's to everyone. Everyone's now finished. It's a crazy fast race. But yeah, I think you did really good, Hihya and Tej and everybody else who raced. Even though they're not in the call, I don't know if anybody else wants to join in, but I think all around this is an awesome race.
How many other
Thank you for
four-way?
commentating.
How many other four-way races do you think have gotten all sub 41s?
I'd be willing to bet not much.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Also, props to Lori for pulling off the solo commentary for a four-way race. That's got to be exhausting.
Yeah, I started to stumble over my words a lot, especially near the end, because you kind of start to lose your train of thought when you're trying to focus it on 4 really fast-moving things at once. But
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Even with 2 people, like just with only 2 people, I stumble over my words.
I try to hold it
I don't
together.
even have to commentate to stumble over my own words.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I stumble a lot just in general, but it was a lot of fun though, so I didn't mind it at all, really. But yeah, I don't think Paul's saying that they can't join, and I don't see Louder anywhere. Didn't even hit the done button on SRTV. So I think if do you guys have anything you want to say before we probably wrap this up?
Follow me on Twitch.
Follow all the runners on Twitch, really.
GG to everyone. Thanks for putting this on as well. Thanks to Speed Gaming for hosting. Thank you, Lori, for commentating.
No problem. Had a lot of fun.
And thank you to the restreamer, whoever the restreamer is. And
I don't know, it's a mystery. I have no idea.
I think it's Mr. Broadstone, but I'm not positive.
I think.
Don't
Well, the
quote me
thing
on
is,
that.
I don't think we're directly restreaming. It's a series of tubes, I guess, is the best way to put it. Kind of deep.
Makes
It's
sense.
like the internet. The internet is a series of tubes. But yeah, it's not really convoluted, but there's a lot of workings into how Speed Gaming runs. But it also runs thanks to a lot of generous supporters and a lot of hard work from a lot of volunteers. So just think about that when you enjoy the rest of the races. It's like there's more Celeste tonight. More Celeste tonight. Looks like some stuff doesn't have a channel, but the next thing that is guaranteed to be happening is on Speed Gaming 4 at 8 p.m., so about 3 hours. We're going to have Scrublord and Chrono, and then an hour after that on Speed Gaming 3 is another 4-person with Ventizi, Vorpal, 4-Eye Steven, and more of that. And no, that's not me trying to say names quickly, that's their name. But yeah, not only is there Celeste, there's also some more games later. Trying to check. There's a lot of Mario 3 right now. Mario 3 and Super Metroid both started around the same time, and they are both very big tournaments. So Celeste, along with those 2 games, there's going to be a lot of coming up for the future of Speed Gaming. But there's also games tonight like Chrono Trigger, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Zelda 1 Randomizer, just all sorts of stuff. So enjoy yourself. You two, again, any last words before I actually wrap it up?
Let me shout out some people real quick, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, shout outs to Aportic, Bintizi, Oddbod, Scrublord, YP, Revolucion, and the entire Speed Gaming staff. Without those guys, there would not be a tournament. So, yeah, thank you guys for all your hard work and dedication to this tournament. You guys are awesome.
All right. Well, Hihya, you have anything?
Shoutouts to my parents, I guess. No, I don't really have anything to say now.
Alright. I mean, hey, shouting out your parents is always a good thing to do. But yeah, that's it for us. So thanks for watching, and we'll hopefully see you in chat for a later race. Or even racing in a later race. I don't know. I don't know what your life's like. I'll see you later.
Bye.
See you.